And they were like, you have another sister that you don't know about. You have a secret sister.
I've been dressed in pink leotards and a diaper doing 30 singing telegrams in February in Chicago.
The only person who was there was John Houseman, who was the founder of the school.
And now you're a Disney princess, is that right? Am I phrasing that correctly?
That's absolutely right. And that's another wish I had. So the universe, gives you what you want in mysterious ways.
Love, love, love. Oh, love wins, love wins. No, because love is conditional. Because love is based on the contingency that you can accept that person for whoever. It's about forgiveness.
Right.
That's what America needs to find.
Yeah.
It ain't love.
Because I don't know if you know this, but I think very few of us in the world have found a dead body.
Probably not, and probably not under the circumstances that I found it.
Sure, so what was the deal?
Join us for all this and more on At the Elephants with Rob Morris, available now on YouTube and iTunes podcasts. Share, like, subscribe, now. Come on, get to it. Do it, you want to.
Says I better get used to the gas.
Hey everybody, and welcome to At the Elephants. I'm your host Rob Morris, and John Vincent Bowhers is on the show today. Get excited. John Bowhers is the coolest. He's John Bowhers after all. If you don't know who John Bowhers is, I pity you a little bit. I do. But at the same time, I'm also really happy for you because that's about to change. You're going to get to know one of my best buddies in the world. He used to be my roommate, and more importantly, he is one of my favorite creative minds to emerge from the North Carolina School of the Arts. John graduated in 2012 from the Scene Design program in the School of Design and Production, so right off the bat, School of Design and Production guest on At the Elephants. That's pretty cool. Second, he's also the co-founder of Peppercorn Children's Theater, and I mean, my God, it goes on and on and on, all the stuff that this guy's done. One of my favorite things is he designed the first show that I ever directed at School of the Arts, The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged, in 2010 with Brandon Harris, Dave Thomas Brown, and Alex Heffler, and was really served as the audition for the School of Drama and the directing program for me. So I'm endlessly grateful for John for designing that set for me and doing so much other free design work over the years. He's done posters for me and design work, and all of it mostly for free because he's an incredible guy. I haven't talked to him yet, so I'm recording this before our conversation, but I know it's going to be great. So enjoy this chat with my buddy John Vincent Bowhers. JVB.
I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia.
How far north is that? Is that like in the south? Because a lot of people consider Virginia to be the south.
Yeah, we're like the exact middle. We're no man's land.
Are you in the Mason-Dixon line?
No, but I talk culturally. We're no man's land. Virginia Beach somehow straddles what feels like both north and south at the same time.
What does that mean? Is it like a hip town? Is it like a progressive
town? It wasn't when I was there. When I was there, it was a lot of Applebee's and a lot of Outback Steakhouses. Panera
Who doesn't love a bloomin' onion?
Yeah. All of my best friends at high school worked at Outback Steakhouse. And I think they probably ate bloomin' onions every single night.
Well, if you have a choice.
Then they started working at Cold Stone, and that was way better because I could go and get free ice cream. And my friend Adam
You'd rather have an ice cream hookup than a steak hookup?
Than a bloomin' onion. I'd take, Cold Stone over a bloomin' onion any day. But my friend Adam invented the Waffle-Rito.
Is this the Adam
Taylor
that we know and love?
Yes, dearly. Invented the Waffle-Rito while he was working at Cold Stone in Virginia Beach.
Explain.
Which is you take the waffle iron that you make the waffle cones in, and you like kind of half bake a waffle for your waffle cone. Then you take your ice cream and you put it in that, and then while the waffle is still like not totally hardened, not cooked, you roll it up, you've got exactly what it sounds like, a waffle-rito. So
That's pretty stellar.
try it at home, friends.
And not the first great idea I've heard from Adam.
No, Adam's really good at taking two foods and then kind of putting them together, or like hiding like his bacon and eggs in his biscuit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to dig a bowl out of the biscuit here, and then I'll put everything in that, and then I'll cap it up.
Do you think when KFC put out their famous bowls, he was just like, should have thought of it first?
Felt really cheated, I think.
Right? That's his area
Yeah.
of R&D.
So, no, Virginia Beach is like 4.5 hours from here, from Winston-Salem. So it was a great, little drive when I was at North Carolina School of the Arts, going back home. I could still get back to my high school theater and go see their productions. My sister was in, The Crucible. Just really riveting.
I did that senior year.
Exciting, just fun time of a show. And so I got to go see her in that. And yeah, so it was a good place to grow up, too. I can't say that I was like the most culturally blessed child in Virginia Beach.
What does that mean?
No, I didn't really get many like viewing art, like going out to see different arts experiences. That kind of came later down the road. My mom started to let me go to Rocky Horror Picture Show at this local sort of art house cinema place, and that was in middle school. So that's when I really started figuring out like, this stuff is weird and really cool.
Did you, were you like drawing and building shit from like 3 or 4 years old? Were you that kid for sure?
Always, yeah. There was a little bit of time that my parents tried to take me to church, and that the family tried to go to church, and that was when I started drawing.
At church?
At church, I'd be pretty distracted during the services, and I had created these series of characters called Miss Circle and Mr. Triangle and Mr. Square, and they were sort of my first characters, storytelling, and also illustration at the same time. So I would draw them in various situations. I feel like they were always trying to help keep Circle from like rolling away, barricading her.
Very practical issues
for a Circle. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably. I actually have no idea what age I was when that was going on, but I'm guessing it was at least by 15.
Did you find that Triangle was really the stronger character?
No, Triangle had
was
a little...
able to support
no,
the others?
I know he should have been, by geometry, but he was a seedy guy, I think. He had some... Yeah, he was like kind of snide.
Do you think some people say that like when you're someone who creates characters or like writers, that they just write the same characters evolved over time? Do you think you're doing like the circle and the triangle and the square?
I don't know, man. I'm going to have to go do an in-depth analysis of the next children's play I write.
Right.
But no, I think there are some archetypes that I like to go towards to start with, to use as a starting point when I'm writing.
Like what?
Underdog characters. Certainly like, well, I write for a children's theater company, and often we kind of strive to create productions that help everyone in this city see themselves on stage as well. So I'm...
what are you pulling from, do you think, most in terms of like stuff from your childhood? I mean, were you heavily influenced by a particular, like, some people were Cartoon Network kids, some people were Disney kids, some people were Nickelodeon kids, some of us had all, some of us had none.
I don't know that any one of those things really influences where I am now. I know that there are a lot that I cherished growing up, and I would say that like the cartoons and video games of my childhood are really where I refined my drawing skills.
What was your favorite video game?
Well, actually, I never played video games. I watched my friends play video games.
You're the rare
I'm that
find.
one. Yeah.
I have another friend that I grew up with who's that rare find.
Yeah.
Who's like, no, you play. I'm just gonna watch. I'm
Yeah.
deeply entertained by it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's
Truthfully, all video game playing kids seek to have that friend, because we don't want to play with you.
It's kind of
we
like
just
having
want an audience.
An audience, yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's
really
telling
a
of
thing.
you as a video gamer.
Yeah, especially as like an only child mostly.
Yeah.
I grew up at my dad's house. It was just the two of us, and he could, care less about my video games. So people come over and be like, "You have to check this out." But it's mostly a one-player role-playing game, and you can't play. So watch me play Final Fantasy for 3 hours.
Yeah, well, luckily, in those situations, I always had a sketch pad, and when my friends were playing those games and not speaking, I was also not speaking and drawing the various characters. My favorite was Ocarina of Time. Legend of Zelda, solid. And that, like, those, you know how they made those manuals for playing the games, and you could buy those? I would always have one of those on hand. I'd be watching them play the game over here, and
we
then
always called it the book.
Yeah, the book.
Get the book.
The master book. But yeah, so I would have that. I'd be watching the game, and I'd be like catching moments from the game, but also using the book with the still images for reference, and I'd create more elaborate scenes playing out that I was doodling. So to go back to your previous question, like, I think it was just I didn't consume too much media, and when I was always translating it into some of my own stories. So I think all of just like the elements of storytelling, from Pokemon to Ed, Ed and Eddie. Yes. For some reason, I thought Nickelodeon was really kind of like lowbrow, and I thought Cartoon Network had like, I don't know, this sort of higher aesthetic that I appreciated. So I was super into what they were doing, like Courage the Cowardly Dog. I just thought there was something really
they were also doing Cow and Chicken
about
though.
that. And then they had Cow and Chicken. Yeah, but I'm not talking about content so much. I'm not talking about content in terms of the scripts of those shows.
Like challenges to the form and like more adventurous animation.
And I still think they do that. I mean, I guess SpongeBob is also amazing, but I just wasn't.
Well, but that's an
like
interesting
too
point.
much.
You think about like Cartoon Network, first of all, is in fact a network entirely dedicated to cartoons, which is not necessarily what Nickelodeon is.
Right.
And additionally, Nickelodeon is also owned by Viacom, who makes MTV and makes Comedy Central and is like really the mainstream in a big way. And Cartoon Network's mainstream too, for sure. But they have Adult Swim.
I'm thinking about it too, and I think
Nickelodeon's version
like,
of that is Nick at Night.
Yeah.
Which is like
awesome.
Great, but that's like
that's
Sanford
how I
and
got
Son.
to consume like the Munsters, which is actually one of my favorite shows that I watched growing up, and I'm still watching recently. Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah.
That was like my.
I'm not a Pee-wee kid.
I think it's where
It had no influence on me.
I think it's where I started. I think it's outside of my drawing those characters in church. I think Pee-wee's Playhouse was like the first time. Well, watching the movie too, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and watching the opening sequence with that brilliant Rube Goldberg machine and all the different colors that makes him breakfast. Tim Burton production design, of course, but
is that Danny Elfman? Yeah,
that's Danny Elfman.
So good.
I think that kind of unlocked it too, and it was just like, look at all these weird parts and repurposed things, and how that's making me perceive the world very differently.
And almost conscious of that at the time. Like, this is different.
I have no idea if I was.
Right.
I just thought it was really fucking cool.
Right.
And got like, I don't know, probably tried to build something like that in my own kitchen after watching that. I know that there was a time I was living, my dad's in the Navy, so we bounced around a little bit, and I was living in Washington, D.C. for a time, and we had a sort of basement area in the house. And really wanted a Nintendo 64 because we had just moved there and I didn't really have like a solid friend group. And I was like, well, everybody at school is playing Pokemon Snap right now, and that looks awesome.
It was fun.
But we didn't get the N64, and so what I did instead was took that basement space and had a lot of cardboard boxes, and I made drawings of all the Pokemon that you would see in Pokemon Snap, and then I made cardboard box environments. And I brought my sister and my mother down into the basement and told them to, I think we either had like a little skateboard or a little radio flyer wagon, and they sat in the wagon, and one of them had to push it, and then I ran around behind all the scenes and made these little drawn Pokemon pop up out of the brush so that my mom and my sister could snap their little Pokemon snapshots of them. And then so we had this really incredible practical Pokemon Snap. And I still have those photos somewhere. Installation in our basement, yeah. And I think those photos still exist. But yeah, I mean, I think
How old were you when you did that?
I must have been in middle school, or no, it was just at the end of elementary school, so I was probably 10.
5th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
That was a blast.
You're doing nothing different.
Yeah. Still building shit out of cardboard.
Like today. You basically did that same thing at work today as an adult, right? In a way?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Children's Museum offers that opportunity every day to set your brain into the mindset of a child and what is exciting for them, what is challenging for them.
Right.
And so, yeah, we actually, like, now there's an adult word for it. Rapid prototyping is what I would call my Pokemon Snap of yore. And that's, we'll do things at the Children's Museum now where one of us will have an idea about some kind of exhibit component that we want to create, and we'll build the cardboard version of it. We'll put it out on the museum floor for a couple of hours and see how kids respond to it. And then from that, we'll learn, okay, how can we refine this as a real exhibit piece now? Does it even work? Is it interesting?
Right.
And that sort of like playing and just not making design a precious process has opened my eyes not only as a now museum exhibit designer, but about how to approach a design process in any medium, in graphics, in scenery, anything that I would use design skills towards. So
yeah,
thinking about it's sketching,
right.
And that was the wonderful thing about having limitations, in this instance, not having the N64 first world problem,
right.
But those limitations, allowed for what's the next way I can solve the problem. That's exciting to me.
So if you were to have a kid, would you want to buy him Pokemon Snap, or would you want him to build the thing in the basement?
Yeah, I would.
As someone who works with kids, think about that.
It's hard. Working with kids, like, I don't think about parenting as much as you would think that I would.
See, I think about it all the time.
You think about well, you have a rabbit. I have a tarantula. It requires far less caring attention.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I get a little
You think
more
about
cuddle
parenting
time.
all the time?
I do think about parenting all the time when I'm working at school, yeah.
Oh, true, yeah. But I'm not, so unfortunately, like, my job at the museum, my time with the actual guests is pretty limited.
Right.
And it's just recently, now that we're installing this Ice Venture, which is this exhibit that we're about to open at the Children's Museum, which is the second year now that we've done it. And it's the first exhibit that we built entirely in-house at the museum. Now that we've been on the floor installing that, I'm getting to work with these kids a little bit more. I mean, I think you have to meet them where they are as well. And but in terms of like discipline like that, I'm not certain I would be very good at that yet.
Right.
Like I would probably, if I had the means, want to buy them Pokemon Snap. Now, if they were like 14, 15, I would certainly like think about how can we create a series of either tasks or challenges so they really feel like they're working towards earning that system or whatever that entertaining thing is that they want to do.
Right.
I think there's something really valuable in that, in making the connection that that work, can help you reach a goal as well.
Right.
And overcome obstacles.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You said your dad is in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
What did your dad do in the Navy?
Well, he's retired now. He was in the Navy for 35 years.
Wow.
And, yeah.
That's so much longer than most people are in the Navy.
Yeah.
Or any branch of the military.
Yeah, well, he's a committed guy.
Yeah, for sure. What did he do for so long?
Well, so he started in the Navy. Sorry, Dad. I'm going to get many, many details of this story wrong. And when I'm in town for the holidays, you can correct me on everything. So, to my understanding, he was kind of a high school failure. Brilliant guy, got great standardized testing scores, but pretty bad grades in class because he just,
Sounds like me and your dad would be pretty good buddies.
Yeah, for all the good reasons, like many distractions, like social life. And
Sure.
And so he was a great runner. I knocked over the thing again. So he was a great runner. I'm just going to set that like that. No, it's good. It's good. Okay. So he was a great runner, and the Naval Academy basically sent him to a community college to get his grades back to a good
Up high enough.
And then said, okay, when you're here, we'll bring you on a running scholarship. So he started at the Naval Academy as a track star.
Your dad's a tall guy.
Yeah, he's the shortest of his brothers too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And your dad's like super tall.
6'2", and then the
Is
brothers
that all?
are.
I don't know why I always feel like your dad towers over me.
He's just one of those.
He's awfully upright.
Yeah. Well.
You know what I mean? He's not a slouching guy.
There's that uniform. That's a military thing. Anyway, he started flying planes.
Right.
And he piloted an E-2, which is a radar plane, which will fly above fighter jets in areas of conflict and map out terrain, give them a sense of where other people are. And after
so that they don't have to house that radar equipment on board.
Oh yeah, it's a giant disc that sits atop of the plane. So if you ever see, it's basically like a regular plane, but with a giant circle smacked on top of it. So if you ever see those fly overhead, that's an E-2. Not my dad anymore because he's not flying it.
Right. Of course.
And then after that, he was doing a lot of his deployments on aircraft carriers, and as he worked up in rank within the Navy, became the air boss, and then the
what's an air boss?
It
sounds dope.
My understanding of it is that he spent a lot of time on the flight deck of the aircraft carriers, essentially like telling planes when it was good to take flight. And then there's on aircraft carriers, because it's such a short distance to take off and then land, you're like crazy. You have to be crazy accurate. There's a hook on the aircraft carrier that the planes have to land, catch the hook, and then the hook makes sure that they stop before they plow right off the front of the boat.
And isn't there also a thing that like snags them when they take off and kind of flings them off?
I am actually not sure, but that sounds like something that might exist.
I saw that in a movie.
Probably exists, yeah. Dad, you can let me know about that later.
Yeah, thanks, Vince.
Yeah, Vince Bowhers.
What's your middle name?
Vincent.
Crazy.
Whoa. Yeah, I think that was maybe going to be my first name. Vincent Bowhers. I would have been Vincent Carroll Bowhers the third.
Carroll,
like Lewis Carroll.
Right, 2 L's.
Yeah. I don't know where that name factored into our family.
But then why do you think that would have been your name?
Because that's my father's middle name and his father. So I would have been Vincent Carroll Bowhers the third. My dad's the second.
Probably somebody's maiden name, some grandma.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Grandma Carol.
There you
Grandma
go.
Carol.
Sounds
The Dallas
fantastic.
family.
It's probably Lewis Carroll. You're probably related to Lewis Carroll.
Whoa.
That makes the most sense. If you're gonna play the odds.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So dad's in the Navy. What about mom?
Mom's awesome.
Talk about mom.
What?
I like your mom. Tell us about your mom.
Wendy. Wendy's phenomenal. She's one of the sweetest women I know. Before she birthed myself and my sister Meredith, my mother...
Children who don't burp.
Children who don't burp, both of us. That's another rare thing. I'm the kid that hates playing video games but loves to watch them, and I can't burp. So
your mom makes
high school
weird
was
kids.
really difficult because it was like a lot of cheer wine
Right.
and video games, and I was like always really uncomfortable with indigestion and bored.
So why can't you burp? It's just a thing. It's a genetic.
No, I have burped actually. This is
What?
breaking news. But it was on the descent of an airplane.
Oh, there you go.
Of a flight. Yeah.
It's got to
was, like,
really mess with your
descending, and
pressure
it was just
beyond
like,
your control.
And it came out, and it is a lot. I don't know why people take pleasure in it as much, because the few times I've experienced it, it just feels like I'm on the cusp of vomiting.
Yeah, it can be close, but your burps are probably pretty epic if they're so rare.
No, they're pretty usual. I think they're typical.
Okay.
Burps. My throat will kind of do this, like...
I didn't mean to make the
release of,
conversation
yeah.
about your mom about burping.
She
wanted us to
would
say
love-
good things
she
about
would love
Wendy,
it.
but-
So Wendy, prior to being an actual stay-at-home mom, worked with a company called Easter Seals in Virginia Beach, and she was working with children on the autism spectrum and various sensory disorders. So she was doing that and then picked that back up after my sister and I had gone to school, and is now doing an amazing job where she provides pretty much one-on-one respite care for children on the autism spectrum from families in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, a family in the military with one of the parents deployed can apply for this in-home visiting certain hours a week respite care for their children on the autism spectrum. And my mom is one of the people that will come out and be that person.
And what does she do with them?
So she takes them to the mall. They walk around the mall sometimes. She'll...
I mean, is there any kind of consistency to where these kids fall on the spectrum? Are they, like, a lot of them not high functioning? Or
You have a range. Most of them are pretty near typical.
Right. Because, like, I work with a lot of kids at school in High Point that you may not even know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
like it's so subtle.
Yeah.
But if you really get to talking to them, it becomes incredibly clear.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was younger and I grew up thinking autism, I'm thinking like Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman autism, like where it's maybe
And people
maybe
tend to think
nonverbal.
that
or,
it's like really easily identifiable, but that's kind of the
so
whole thing
not.
about this new classification of the spectrum as well is makes it a little more difficult for caretakers, because some children that really do need to be diagnosed on the spectrum will be overlooked because they don't appear as autistic, which is just a terrible way to think about things.
yeah, but it's a hard thing to measure and quantify.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the reality of it is that every situation is incredibly different.
Right.
And the children that are dealing with this really do benefit from a one-on-one interaction where someone can really get to know their specific needs.
Right.
And so that's what Wendy is doing right now. She was really stoked. Peppercorn did an autism and sensory friendly production of our musical this past summer, and we worked with a child development center here in town called ABC of NC, and they work with students on the spectrum like up to over 20 years old. And what they do is they integrate their classroom with typical children as well, and so that they get these levels of interaction between the children on the spectrum and these typically performing children. And so we worked with them to develop curriculum building up to this production of Take One Step, our musical, and they got what are called social stories, which are meant to prepare the child for the experience that they're going to be engaging in.
Gotcha.
So we created an illustrated social story, and I got to do the drawings for that too.
Of course.
And so that all built up. Harry Poster, the artistic director of Peppercorn, worked with actors to go over to the school.
And a drama directing alumnus.
And a drama directing alumnus from.
I always got to shout him out.
I know. Yes. Well, yeah. Wait.
Harry.
Yeah. And a drama directing alumnus. And then, but were you involved in that process at all?
I wasn't.
I didn't think so.
My role in Take One Step is the associate director of the children's chorus. I think I got that right. It might be the longest artistic title I've ever had.
It is. And so you were working with the children that were performing in the show.
Correct.
It was Chesley Polk was the other person that went over to ABC FNC with Harry, and they created this curriculum where they got to explore what is a villain, what is a hero, what types of characters are we going to see, what will they talk like. We can recognize that they are actual people, but they're portraying roles, and that's part of the experience. This is the mask that we're going to see in the show. And so they got all of that a week before they came to see the show, and along with those social stories that we created, and then they came to see the show. And my mom was at the show that day and was just like in teacher mode. It was hilarious. It was like, Mom, you're here to watch the show. Stop trying to work for us right now.
Right.
And she was like hanging out with kids. I think she even got up with a kid that wasn't interested in being in the theater at one point, so she's just always on when it comes to that work.
That's great. That's so interesting.
Really passionate about it.
The kids that I work with have, of course, like you said, I think quite accurately, it's different in every situation. And if anything, the spectrum is certainly not linear. It's, nebulous. It's a complicated thing. And this notion of preparing them for what they're going to experience is so interesting because it covers several issues that they struggle with, which is like processing time and systems that they don't understand yet, and getting caught up with certain really it's a lot of it's processing time. It's like they see something that they don't get, and it's like they cannot do anything else but until they figure out what's going on with that thing. And that can be a very particular process, trying to get them to understand how something works.
Right.
And I got one kid in particular that I'm thinking of who's one of my favorites. But if he gets hung up on something, like if we're watching a video or something, and the guy comes in and he's wearing a hat, and no one else is wearing a hat. And he's like, why is that guy wearing a blue hat? And it's like, I don't even have an answer. It's like, because the costume guy was like, let's give this guy a fucking hat. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, it's like... and
takes up the
but
rest
to
of
him,
the
he can't stop talking. It's like everyone else is just trying to hear the dialogue of the scene. And this guy's going, but the blue hat, it's got a blue hat, though. But it has a lightning bolt on it. Does that mean he works for the power company? Maybe he's a superhero. Does he have... And it's like, oh, my God, dude. If you were quiet, you'd hear... He might just tell you where he got the fucking hat. It might be part of the story, man. I don't know.
But it's so amazing, that high level of questioning, too. And that's what really has always excited me about serving primarily children in our audiences, is that that's an audience that will be so vocal if they need to.
Right.
And you'll know exactly where the play is either distracting them or boring them.
Right.
And then you get a dialogue, not only on stage, but really in the whole theater, which is kind of what I feel a theater experience, especially as a child, should be. If I had those types of things as a kid,
right.
I would realize the tool of communication that art really can be, and how that can help us further our communities, So I love that when we're doing these productions, the sensory friendly show, but all of our productions really, that there is an openness and this realization that like a kid is going to interrupt you if they need to know something, and you're going to have to make that a conversation while you're performing to move the story forward too, and to engage this really active listening audience.
I want to like back up, but I have something I want to say about that, and I want to like say, hey, what is Peppercorn, and you tell me real quick, just so that anybody who's listening who doesn't know.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a thing, and I will ask you that officially in one moment. But the thing I wanted to say first is, it is a part of going to a Peppercorn show to know that there's going to be a bunch of kids making a bunch of noise in the audience.
Is that a part of a Peppercorn show for a non-child audience?
I'm telling you,
you're telling me
as
that.
A frequent Peppercorn play audience
that part
goer,
of the experience is
knowing
watching,
that there will be other kids in the audience, and the kids make noise.
and that's the best. I mean,
you don't go to a regular play and you expect everyone to be totally silent, and for the most part they are. Or some old guy might cough or something. But you go see a Peppercorn show and it's like, Mommy, he's tall.
Yeah.
And it's like,
we did.
Where's the sandwich? Whatever. And you're like, there is not even a sandwich in this play. What is he talking about?
One of my favorite moments in our first season of plays was during we did a Midsummer Night's Dream with puppets, and there were moments where the children would, like, a couple different shows, they would go, why do they look like pirates? Every show without fail. And it's just like, we must be doing a really terrible job setting context, or pirates is the only context they know for like what is actually Elizabethan.
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
It was fun.
But it really does give you a bunch of unique litmus tests for your work.
Right. And a good sense of, I mean, hopefully if we're doing our job, we're getting a big picture of our community at our shows as well. And then you get a nice microcosm of what do families in this community respond to? What do they need? What are they really interested in? What entertainment are they looking for? What education are they looking for? So that can be really inspiring and informative.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you started a children's theater company
a
few years ago.
I didn't do it on my own, though.
That's right.
I had a lot of help from a lot of friends. Some of them who are in this room with me currently.
Right.
Some of them who are spread out across the entire country. One of them, my co-founder, who just moved to New York City to begin her career as a freelance producer and is already killing it. So, yes, Peppercorn Children's Theater at the time was a project that was developed by a group of 20 or so current students at North Carolina School of the Arts.
At the time.
At the time. Yeah, Peppercorn Children's Theater at the time, North Carolina School of the Arts at the time.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was my junior year, and Anna Rooney, who founded the company alongside me, was a first-year grad student in the Performing Arts Management program.
Which is not a thing anymore.
Which is not currently a thing, although there are conversations about reviving the program, which are exciting and great because it's something that the school, I think it's essential to.
Needs and should have, for sure.
We should know the business.
Yeah.
As young entrepreneurs, it's so important to have the resource. Like, I always joke that, like, well, I don't joke. I'm very serious that, like, if it weren't for Anna getting in touch with the community law clinic through Wake Forest and figuring out what it meant to incorporate and get a 501c3, like, we would not be here. And so we had the idea together, but it was her drive and her understanding of operating a business that made it possible to be alive the way that we are still today.
So in 2011, you set up shop in our backyard.
We did, yeah. So we were living in 1910 South Main Street, which was this great house, 6-person house, always an inspiring environment in various forms. And we set up a costume shop in the living room. We set up a scene shop in the basement. We built outside. We had rehearsals outside. And this was all based around a play that I had written the winter break prior called Tab's Contraption. And it was the story of a boy who makes a machine that is going to make kittens. And he does this in order to impress a girl. And the machine goes haywire and spouts out thousands of kittens all over Calico City. And the girl and the boy together have to round up all the kittens using the power of jazz music.
Of
and
course.
At the end, the girl asks why he did it. And he said, well, I just really want attention. And she said, all you had to do that is just be your jazzy old self. And,
Of course.
So Tab's Contraption was this play and this idea that I really wanted to try and follow through with. And
Do you remember talking to me about directing the play when you were drawing the preliminary sketches for it?
Yes.
We were in the drafting studio.
Yes.
I remember this vividly.
This is like this whole weird enlisting period where it was just like, yeah, we're really going to do this thing. Like,
Yeah.
Like, let's just get... And so, yes, I do. And there were lots of those little moments of like, how can I just get people invested in this thing that feels really temporary that we want to do this summer?
Is Tab pretty much John Bowers?
No, not at all.
Tab's not John?
No, and I don't think that... I would like to think that I have never done that entirely flat out. Like, certainly every character is a fractured view of one whole playwright.
Right.
And certainly scenarios at the time inform the story, as with any story. But no, Tab is many people.
Right.
Smashed into one. Just Ryan Pater played the part, and it was adorable.
It was very good.
So
a lot of fun.
So
but you didn't just do one play that summer,
right? And so this is this whole enlisting period. Anna and I formulated the idea to put on Tab's Contraption, and we started figuring out the people that we really wanted to have around to do this project with us. And we knew we needed technicians, and we knew we needed performers, and we knew we needed people that could do all of that, but would also embrace Winston-Salem as the city that they wanted to spend their summer in, which is an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's great.
And then, secondly, to work with children and to be around a child audience. So we reached out to all those people, and then we were like, well, wow, they're going to hang out for a whole summer. What if we did more than this one production? What if we made a whole season out of it? What shows would we be interested in doing? And we started to look at the canon of other children's theater work that was out there and realized, like, we might have more fun writing these shows ourselves. So we did an adaptation of Midsummer Night's Dream. And we did this variety show that was called Pepper Jam. And what we ended up doing was we reached out to the Children's Museum of Winston-Salem and said, we will provide for you an entire summer of free programming if you give us your venue. Oh, God. And they were like, yeah, let's do this. And so that's when everything became really formalized. And we started having these dinner meetings at Anna's house. And we would call over every collaborator that we wanted to join us for the summer. They would meet us at the house, and we'd make them dinner, and we'd pitch these wild ideas, and we'd do these play readings. And it all built up very naturally. And in this sort of way that it was like, oh, we're putting on a summer season, and we're a company now. The name was a frustrated evening of knowing that we had this commitment of a 3-show summer season and that we really wanted to make it all happen. And we were like, but what do we call it? We started naming things around the room. And it was like, Mason Jar. Oh, no, that's not a children's theater name. John's Pillow. No, that sounds like Jacob's Pillow Dance Company. And then it was Anna Rooney's younger brother, Evan Rooney, that saw a peppercorn grinder, a whole peppercorn grinder sitting on a windowsill in the room we were in. And he said, Peppercorn.
Done.
It was the one that just stopped.
And he was our roommate.
and he was our roommate as well. Yeah, it was a beautiful web of collaborative fantasy.
It really is like an NCSA dream team situation, you know? It's like exactly what you hear about when people come back and they say, oh, what's the best thing about having gone to school here or whatever? It's always, oh, the people, and you always work with the people and the network of the people. And this is a great example of that being actualized and materialized and having staying power. And it really is the unique fruit of labor for a group of people who wanted to do something outside of a conservatory time frame, which is already demanding enough.
Right.
You'd think we'd mostly just want to hang out in the summertime.
No.
We never really stopped.
Kind of people, yeah.
It's true.
So after that first summer, we officially became incorporated as Peppercorn Children's Theater, and we developed a 501c3, which gave us tax-deductible status as a nonprofit organization. And we...
And this is only in the summer.
This is only in the summer. And we decided that we would continue to do this summer model, and that it was high time that we hired some other directors and brought on some different playwrights. And so the second season, we brought back some of the original teammates, but we also brought in an entirely new technical staff and produced 3 more shows. And at this point, we also adapted to a model where we were doing all of our performances in different venues around the city. So we started reaching out to local businesses and museums, basically anywhere that had a great space, and trying to figure out, based on the content of our shows, which venues would be most appropriate. And we really created this site-specific model where we were bouncing all around the town, rehearsing. Thankfully, on the School of the Arts campus, they've been so kind over the past 5 years to help incubate our company by providing us with some rehearsal space and the ability to build on the campus as well. And so we've operated in that same way up until October of 2014, where Anna Rooney and myself signed documents that created a formal merger between Peppercorn Theater and the Children's Museum of Winston-Salem. And so it was in October of 2014 that we essentially sold Peppercorn over to the museum on the grounds that we would come on as full-time employees and continue to run Peppercorn the way that we always have.
And to continue pushing that programming and content in outside of the summer boundary.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the first thing that you really did with that was with the ballpark, right?
Yeah, and that was actually pre-merger. We were in the middle of negotiating the merger when we did this event at the BB&T ballpark, which was last October, called Field of Fears, and that was like an educational, engaging family festival experience at the BB&T ballpark. And you actually directed our immersive experience called The Dark Room, which was like our scary part.
So not a Rob Morris kind of thing to hire me for, but I was happy to do it. I had a lot of fun.
It was so interesting. But yeah, so we created all of these exhibits.
It's ironically a very Stephen Kopp kind of thing.
Well, Stephen chilling up in New York.
Hitting the road.
Yeah. But so we did that production with the BB&T ballpark, and that is, at that point, we kind of then began more of our academic year programming through the museum.
Right.
This year, so we merged with the museum. Harry Poster comes on as artistic director, and he'll be joining us full-time in May of 2016, which we're thrilled about. We, this year, post-summer season, have now rolled out field trip productions that schools can come and see a performance-based field trip at the Children's Museum, then go play throughout the museum, and then they hop on the bus and they head back to their schools.
That's a great
And there
idea.
are now 4
Whose
different...
idea is that? Yours?
No. That's an Anna and our education director, Christine Simonson, have been daydreaming about that type of work.
That's brilliant.
And Harry has really led the team in creating the content for those shows. We have 3 plays that are written by Harry that are available now, and we have 1 play that's written by our friend Adam Taylor. And those shows range from live performances with actors playing characters to a shadow puppet show that explores color theory.
Wow.
And so there are different educational standards that are hit with each of the field trip shows as well. And our idea and our hope and our dream is that over the next few years, we can actually phase out all of our sort of typical lesson plan based field trips where you come in and you do a craft and you get read a story and then you go play in the museum, to trade all of those out for either performance or theater tech based field trips where they are building a puppet.
Wow.
Or building a costume piece or learning about the set design process.
Right.
Anything
so there's
like
a
that.
more specific theme for the day. It's more pointed in a particular direction.
Yeah. And then in just a few weeks here, we'll be collaborating with the Carolina Chamber Symphony Players and Helen Simoneau Dance to produce Peter and the Wolf, which the Carolina Chamber Symphony Players have been doing for several ongoing years up until now. And we are just this year integrating a performance aspect along with Helen. She'll be choreographing the piece and really conceptualizing how dance can enter the world of Peter and the Wolf for families and how dance moves can help reinforce the themes and the characters that the instruments are representing,
Right.
But through movement as well. So adding another
It's
layer.
surprising to me how few people I talk to who are aware of what Peter and the Wolf is. You don't realize it was written for that reason.
Right.
Like to teach kids
you about
the
instruments,
instruments.
yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things. Are you the one that showed me that stop motion video?
Yes.
Oh my
Love that video.
god,
It's
that
gorgeous.
movie's so good.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening who likes Peter and the Wolf, check out the stop motion.
Or even
Do
if
know
you
who made
don't
it?
like Peter and the Wolf. No, I don't know the director, but
Yeah, if you don't
it's a
like it,
beautiful
whatever.
movie. If you
It's
don't
so
know
good.
it, just go watch it.
It's a great
gorgeous.
introduction.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
It's dark. It's a little grim. Don't show it to your kids until you've seen it. And
Yeah,
make
that's
sure that-
probably
yeah.
true.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
Do you miss designing professional theater?
Honestly,
I don't
it's
want to
just,
downgrade what you do,
not
but
at
you know what my
all.
question is.
Yeah, I totally know what your question is. And yes, Rob, I do design professional theater for Peppercorn Theater.
There it is.
Thank you very much.
I needed that.
Did I before we answer this, I just want to make sure. I think that's the whole of Peppercorn. The whole kernel. Yeah, I guess, there are other things that we're looking forward to in terms of breaking our main stage season into the academic year as well.
Right.
We're really interested in working to promote the work of the playwrights that are working with us and help those plays go on to have further lives as well. So all of those things... and also just getting a name for Peppercorn outside of the sphere of Winston-Salem as well. Trying to bring in artists from all different communities, all different styles of work to come use our model as a space to play and to really develop new and engaging content as well.
Yeah, it's a great place to build curriculum. It sounds like what you're building is quite the laboratory.
Yeah, so that's kind of the dream and the direction that things are going. I think... Now, to answer your question about design, so I graduated in 2012 from UNCSA as an undergraduate scenic designer. And
didn't you, right before you graduated, didn't you win some national scene design
yeah,
thing?
it was really amazing. It was the W. Orrin Parker. It's an award for the best national undergraduate scenic designer given through USITT, which is the United States Institute for Theatrical Technology.
So what's that pool like for that award?
I am not totally sure, but I imagine that it's the other, great conservatories around the country.
Right.
I never really got a sense of how many applicants there were, but it was a juried submission. I turned in my work and some statements on design and...
It was certainly hailed as a huge deal when it happened. I mean, it seemed to be, I just mean as far as, how everybody felt about it.
Yeah.
And that's not the only one we've taken home.
We've done a great job across the board, different departments in design and production receiving that type of award through USITT. So the year that I received the award, Holland Burson, who is an amazing wig and makeup designer and
Frequent
also
Peppercorn
currently living in Winston-Salem. She received an award for being one of the best grad wig and makeup designers. And we've consistently done well with the Scenic Design Award. I know that several of the people that I really looked up to, aspired to, received it before me. Ryan Weiniger, Brooke Robbins, these people that were years ahead of me and also like really helped guide me in school. And I love scenic design. And I love how scenic design has been able to translate to the worlds of graphic design and the worlds of now exhibit design for the Children's Museum of Winston-Salem.
And that's a thing that our grads do often too. Exhibit
design and event design. I mean, that's
huge for our grads.
That's why I would say that right now I don't feel like I miss professional theater design.
The air quotes, by the way, don't sell as well on the radio show.
Professional theater, do you hear that? Do you hear the little like wisps of wind
you would have
as I
heard the
air
tone,
quote it?
but I just wanted to say
professional,
something.
you know. So because I feel like I'm always doing it.
Right.
And my fellow classmates that I graduated with, Valentina Felse, Leanne Friedel, Katie Dill, and Elizabeth Allman, are doing design across the board. Event design, television. Leanne was working with Anthropology, curating their spaces in all of their storefronts. And Valentina is building these beautiful dolls that she sells out of Florida. I mean, they're all doing this fascinating work. And it's all because of the skills that you gained from set design. So whether you're designing a play or whether you're building Ice Venture at the Children's Museum of Winston-Salem, I think the gut feeling that gets me really excited is still there, and the process is still there. I would say one of the things that I wish that I had the opportunity to do more frequently is just to be in, this is going to sound crazy, but to be in tech. Like,
no, I miss it sometimes.
I just, there's a camaraderie that develops that is really unique to putting on a play or a musical that, and I get to sometimes. I had a fellowship at the Kennedy Center in 2013-14, and a lot of the relationships that I developed around Washington, D.C. are theaters that I'm still taking small jobs with when I can.
Right.
So I do try and get out and design plays.
You still do any freelance graphic design?
All the time. Currently designing for political campaigns in Winston and Forsyth County.
Anyone in particular?
I'm doing letterheads for a few people. I'm not certain. It's not that I shouldn't talk about it. I don't know that their campaigns have been released yet, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so actually a good, dear friend, J.D. Wilson, and supporter of the School of the Arts and just arts in Winston and in the nation.
An overall stellar individual.
He runs a direct marketing firm in town called Excalibur Direct Marketing, and has brought me on to do some freelance graphics as well. So try and keep up with that. That's exhilarating always because it's like really quick ephemeral work. It's fun.
You could be in Winston for a while?
I think so. With the trajectory of Peppercorn and it's really been received well by the museum and by our audience. I think that the work is there for a while. And I'm loving this city as not like outside of being a student now. There are music venues I love here. There are bands that are really great, and I'm sort of trying to see a little more of that side of Winston-Salem as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me, John. It was really fun.
Dude, thank you.
Was it scary? Was it bad?
This talking?
Yeah.
No, it got much easier as it went on. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I guess I just don't like to talk about myself.
Yeah.
Or I feel like if I'm talking about myself, then I'm wasting time that I should be doing something.
Right.
So,
Well, if you think about it this way, if nothing else, you're doing me a favor. You feel good about that?
yay!
Right?
I love that.
Great.
This was fun.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
So I've been reading about nameless things. Don't ask me what they are.